Hey, what's up? Welcome to DGen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts. And so this is overnight market prep here for Tuesday, May 13th, getting ready for Wednesday, May 14th. Just looking at the charts here. And so for this stream, I am going to be going over the usual tickers that I do for pre-market preps, overnight market preps. And then I've got kind of a long list of tickers that stand out to me. I actually had some small trades on today. And I just wanted to go over basically kind of my thesis with them and just kind of dive into the thought process around setting stop losses and placing limit orders for sells, basically for exiting positions, because I think there's some nice lessons there, maybe some hard lessons, but generally, I think that there's a lot of good stuff there, so I wanted to dive into that. And also just to note, I will be opening up the chat for myself to view towards the end of the stream. Hopefully I can keep it under an hour because I do have work in the morning, and then I can respond to some requests. But the list here is pretty exhaustive, so hopefully it does cover a lot of what you guys are interested in, and so I may not go back if you guys do miss them, and you guys can kind of rewind and catch the ones that you like. But anyways, let's look over here at the UVIX, which is the 2x long VIX futures ETF, which closed today at a price of $27.51, being down 2.41% on the day, but it looks like it's bouncing about 2% in the after hours, and in the overnight, it's actually up over 3%. So, that is looking like, in all honesty, I've been thinking, we'll have to look at the SPY in a second, but I've been thinking that the SPY might be consolidating a little bit, maybe getting a little bit of a pullback, and so that could mean that the UVIX could be bouncing up to here around maybe $36, $37, where I do have this little doodle going to. And so what we see here is, the gap down into Monday. And on Monday the 12th, we came down over 26%, but then today only down 2.4%, putting in what looks like a little bit of a dragonfly doji there. Big wick to the downside, open and close right around the same price, very near the top of trading for the day, having hit a low of 26.23. So, I'm very curious to see if we do start to see a bottom, and maybe this is something that would be good to hold over the weekend. I am not sure, not thinking that the market's really going to, collapse or have any big 10, 5%, whatever, big move down over the weekend, but maybe something that could cause the UVIX to go up. Just, a little bit of a correction, a little bit of volatility here. So, I did not add to my position today, as I said I would not. But I just kind of wanted to see. I wanted to evaluate what is going on here. And this does look like, hey, maybe there's a bottoming signal there. We do have, I should note, going over the volume, kind of a surge in volume, sell off down here. But then the volume's kind of cooled off and we held that price. So maybe this is just a little bit of a cool off and it does continue lower. So maybe good to see again what happens tomorrow if we do look at the past over here from this transition to red to green, or actually maybe there's a better example of like a gap down and consolidation. No, it's not like too fancy or anything, not as big as what we recently saw, but there was a gap down red candle, consolidation, and then, it started to go back up. So maybe we're going to see something like that in the coming days. Maybe not Wednesday, but I feel like there's just so much good news. It seems like this is probably going to continue lower, but maybe that good news, all of it just gets priced in. We get desensitized to it, and then we see some volatility to the upside. But if I do look at this at the 10-minute time frame before flipping over to the VIX, I just wanted to take a look at this. How did this trade into today? So yesterday I covered this in the overnight trading. We kind of held those levels before pre-market, moved up a little bit to 29.20, and then, really just kind of sold off into open, bouncing around that 26.23. And this actually looks pretty interesting because we got this bounce, consolidation, and then forming higher highs relative to this one over here and higher lows. So that actually looks pretty good, closing higher and holding those gains through the after hours with a little move up here, and then now in the overnight trading around 28.40. So yeah, I'm pretty intrigued by this, but I'm not chasing, I'm not jumping into anything too crazy. But maybe, maybe I want to consider adding another share to my small position around 27. I don't know. I don't have any orders placed, just, thinking out loud. But now let's flip over to the VIX. So this is, of course, the market volatility index. This is not the panic indicator, but the, I always forget what it's called. But yeah, this did close today at 1822, down about 1%, 0.92% on the day. And again, yeah, I mean, gap down here, coming down 16%, and then consolidating here, a hammer candle, wick down to that level, the 786, around 18. And what's that level based on? That's this retracement over here, which did act as support over here. So maybe it does act as support again, but we could also be fading lower, maybe coming down to around 15, like corresponding with this blue line here. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I don't really want to spend too much time on these, standard tickers, because there is a lot of other stuff I wanted to get into. So let's look over now at the SPY. This is the S&P 500 tracking ETF that closed today on Tuesday, May 13th at a price of $586.84, up 0.66% on the day, up a little bit more in the after hours, but then pulling back about 30 cents, less than 1%, less than 1/10% in the overnight. So really not too notable price action there. But I believe I drew these lines yesterday, and just being kind of casual trend lines, thinking that we've been finding this uptrending support, uptrending resistance to get a breakaway, a close above, but then we quickly returned back to that uptrend. And that's basically where we got to today, hitting a high of $589.08. So, this could be putting in not necessarily a topping signal in all honesty, because we did see this gap up, but we don't necessarily see a massive wick to the upside. It was green on the day, but again, though, only 0.66%, but still, this is the SPY. That is actually, a pretty big move for such a big index, or an ETF that tracks the index. So, yeah, I mean, I could still see this continue to move up over the next couple of days, but perhaps still residing below this uptrend. And then maybe something happens over the weekend, something comes out, stirs up the markets, and this starts to pull back. I think that would be good, regarding the UVIX. Yeah, we could be seeing a little bit of a pullback on this. I think that 567, right around this yellow line, that seems like it's a little bit greedy, expecting it to come down that low. But we do have, you can see very clearly kind of this void or this gap. Not much trading occurred in this region between that yellow line and around 567 and the red one around 582. And with us currently trading, closing above that level, maybe there is going to be some resistance. And also what we can see, looking at the volume, still pretty elevated relative to some of the candles over here. But what we saw on Monday, the 12th, this massive gap up going up 3.3% on the day. And then today, Tuesday, we continued higher, but we actually saw less volume. So that does make me think that there's potentially some weakness there, but it, of course, could still be going higher following below that uptrend before ultimately just doing a little bit of a correction. First we got to do a little bit of a correction, and then maybe it could become a big one. I'm not calling for that right now, but I think that, with this move up here, a little bit of a retest, maybe to like 575 or so, maybe that would be nice over the course of the next week. So not necessarily tomorrow or anything like that. But let's look over real quick at the 10-minute time frame here for the SPY. We can see that from the overnight trading from yesterday did pull back into, I guess this would still be the overnight trading, dipping to a low of 580.17. more or less holding and respecting that level and actually putting in higher lows into the pre-market trading here, getting back above that red line at 581.68, and then opening higher up here, moving up, consolidating, pulling back a little bit towards the close. So, I actually find that pretty interesting. The last 20 minutes or so, a pretty big pullback. And that does seem to kind of correspond with the lows over here, right around 586, where we closed at, and then just into the after hours and overnight trading, basically just holding that level. So yeah, I could definitely see there being a potential top here soon. But then I believe I drew the same kind of levels on the SPX, although I did not draw that those uptrending lines, but we'll just have to imagine them over here. Looking at the SPX, which is the S&P 500 index, I just think it's a little bit better to be looking at this as far as identifying key tops or bottoms or pivots, just because I think that this data is just a little bit more pure because it is the index versus the SPY being an ETF of the index. And so we can see that the SPX did close at a price of $5,886.55, being up 0.72% on the day, hitting a high of $5,906.64. And one thing that I must say is maybe some topping signals. I think Tom Lee is great. I really like his analysis a lot. He did call, for this V-shaped recovery, and we got that. But he has been praised a ton today, whether it's on X, on Squawk Box, whatnot, CNBC. He has just totally been praised for nailing this. But when that happens, that's potentially a topping signal or at least a reversal signal. Probably, I would imagine short term, I do think that we could be heading back to all-time highs. Things just seem really, like they could keep going. But maybe we do get a pullback to around 5,700, which would correspond with this yellow line over here, around 567 on the SPY. But I think that would be kind of, short term. Maybe we get a pullback and then a bounce to continue up higher. Maybe it doesn't go that low, that it is a doodle. I'm just thinking testing this line, and it doesn't have to happen right away. Could be later this week, or maybe we see something like this continue to go up, but maybe start to show some signs of weakness, like WIX going up pretty high, or, like a little doji here that we saw with... I don't know if you can see that with the thing up there. Doji, kind of a topping signal, and then this red candle. That is, I believe that's either an evening star or a shooting star, where you got this doji up here with a big green candle followed by a big red one. That does suggest that it is reversing, and we saw that here. So, we haven't necessarily seen a sign like that in the S&P 500 yet, but I do think that we could sometime this week, and then maybe Monday next week we see a gap down, and maybe we see an island gap up here to the upside. We gap down and then maybe fill it later. So I think that just looks really interesting. I do think after these moves, so from this near fill of that gap, the S&P 500 is up about 5.5%. So that's a pretty nice move over the course of the past week or so. So I do think it's good to be kind of cautious with that. And so with that being said, I'm just going to flip over to Bitcoin and Ethereum. Not going to cover Doge today, but yeah, Bitcoin has pulled back a little bit, currently trading below $104,000. It did get up to this yellow box, but did not yet hit this 108,000 level that I've marked here, which is based on that 100% Fibonacci extension there. It does seem like we are putting in maybe some topping signals with these big wicks to the upside, but maybe this is just bullish consolidation, just like we saw over here, which happened to take about 2 weeks or so. So that's 14 days. 14 bars, because Bitcoin doesn't have weekends. And so, I think that it would actually be a really good thing if Bitcoin did consolidate in this range, maybe dipping down to maybe just a little bit sub 100,000. And then I think that would just be, like more bullish consolidation before continuation to the next leg higher. And, I won't cover it in this just because I don't want to spend too much time on it. But during this Saturday's Crypto Corner, I will go over a trend line to the upside, looking in TradingView, just where, I think the data is a little bit better, but a trend line to the upside, I think corresponding with the tops over here, that would suggest where price could be going to, which I believe is sub 120. But getting close to there, maybe 113. And that could be a level where, maybe it would be nice to take some profits to then buy back lower, just like we saw over here, or like, to sell here and then buy back much lower. Of course, nothing ever works out perfectly, but I personally am just kind of realizing maybe I want to be a little bit more conservative. And so maybe I should have a, trim level to the upside. I will not cover that here, though. I will do that during Crypto Corner. I'll spend more time looking at the charts there. But here, looking at Ethereum, currently trading at 2,650, so 2,650, right around there. Hit a high of 2,740 about, and trading just below there. This does look, pretty good, pretty strong. So yeah, we are above this 1618 Fibonacci extension there. And so that's based on, the full extension from the bottom here, kind of bypassing this bull flag, getting to this one. And we can also see those kind of 2-week consolidation periods. Maybe we get 2 weeks of consolidation here, getting people bored out of their position, starting to doubt Ethereum like they were a ton down here. Man, 1,400, that was a dip buying level I talked about, I have to admit, though, after the fact. But it's actually possible that during a pre-market prep, I did, actually, no. I mean, I drew these levels up here during pre-market preps, I believe, thinking about this orange line as potential support and then kind of desperately looking for support below to find this level around 1,400. So yeah, I just wasn't like loading the boat then. So but from 1,400 to 2,600, that's a pretty nice move. And let's actually just take a measurement of that. So from this line here up to where it's currently at, 87% to the upside. So yeah, I mean, just looking great. Maybe it needs to cool off a little bit like I've got doodled here. So I'm going to delete that doodle, but maybe something like this could still be in play. Or maybe we do continue up to the next level on that Fibonacci extension, which is around 3,000. So do look for that. And also we do have this consolidation over here. That may very well be acting as some resistance. So I might want to hey, that is acting as resistance. I was just going to mark a line there, make that thick and red. Being approximate there, but around 2,600 does correspond with this consolidation. Any buyers here who have been feeling the pain, losing conviction, they might be wanting to take a breath of fresh air here, sell at break even. And so there could be some resistance where we're currently at. So good to be thinking about that. But now I am going to dive into the tickers that are on the list or on the thumbnail and in the description of today's video, really just kind of going over some trades that I took today. And so one of those is going to be Mara, which is Marathon Digital, but I believe they just go by Mara now, ticker symbol MARA, which closed at a price of $16.37, being up 2.63% on the day, but pulling back, fractions of a percent in the after hours and overnight. And so what I had talked about in last night's overnight market prep was the possibility of a retest of this uptrend. And I had actually mentioned that I, would just buy one share because I do have some calls, get one share if it pulled back to 1569. But then just looking at the chart and really thinking about this inverse head and shoulders pattern that we got a breakout and just looking for the retest before this goes higher. And thinking about what happened with Coin, ticker symbol COIN, Coinbase, that they just got listed on the S&P 500, and that had somewhat of a similar pattern, if I am not mistaken, and that's just taken off. And so I am wondering if Marathon Digital might be following their lead. And so I still have the order placed for one share. Pretty lame, I know, but just being honest with you guys, because it's like a level up from paper trading and it's just a way for me to be involved. And I do have calls. I just kind of, want to have more exposure than just the calls because I think those calls will print, although they are a little bit risky. Put a lot of money on them, to be honest. But I think that I should be okay in the end. because I think that Mara will be going higher, potentially, 30 bucks up here, potentially 35. But really, I think that, like I mentioned, I believe last night, that this could be coming up to around $80, corresponding with the highs from 2021, the last fourth year, the last year of the Bitcoin rally before entering the bear market. And so I think that there's just a lot of upside with this. And so in addition to that one share at 15.69, I did buy one share on the dip at 16. Again, pretty lame, only one share. But the low for the day was 15.80. I just didn't necessarily want to be left behind just to, be holding something that I'm not going to be emotional about on the ride up to potentially 80 or higher. And so I'm excited about that. And also I did place an order for another contract. And so I'll just go over to the contract list here just so I can pull that up, just so you can see it. That is the Mara $50 call that expires in January. So just so you guys are aware, I'm going to pull it up on my phone so I can read it to you guys. I just don't like to have my stuff on the screen, but let's see. So for this contract, I currently have 4 of them at an average price of $120. So I am in the red. And I placed a buy order today for one more contract at $90. The last couple buys that I had with it, I'm just looking at the details on my phone, was 70 cents, 69 cents, 89 cents. And then I bought my initial contract at $2.50. So pretty ridiculous. But because I was buying the dips, could have been a lot more aggressive down here. I totally regret it not getting at like 30 cents or something. Man, I'd be happy about that. I think that this could continue with the momentum. Maybe there's a correction or something in between, but if I think that Mara could be getting back to $80 a share, I think that this could definitely be getting to my average at 120. So I was thinking maybe I could just lower that a little bit, but I do have to say I have a take profit level at $2, and because that would basically be making back what I had lost on a previous Mara contract, in addition to getting back what I had put in on these 4, maybe 5 if it does dip to 90. But the dip today, it looks like the low for this contract was 95 cents, so pretty close to my limit buy, but not quite. And so, I'm just kind of chilling with that, and I will, just pull up, let's see, contract lookup just so we can see that contract real quick. Just to look at the low, yes, 95 cents. The high was $1.05. Previously, we did hit higher highs at 115 and 113 the past couple trading days. And let's see the data over here from the past 7 days. It looks like, call premium was higher than net put premium. Net call premium went up today by 1.43 million. And actually, maybe I need to refresh that. No, so that should be for today. Yeah, the 13th there. Just making sure it's refreshed and stuff. But yeah, up 1.43 million in net call premium, whereas net put premium went up by about 500,000. So definitely looking more bullish there, but don't want to spend too much time getting into the weeds with that. So I will flip back over here to the, let's see, the list here, looking at Mara. And I have to say the reason why I decided to get, one share, maybe get another one, and to place an order for another contract is really just because of the chat on here. One of you guys, Benjamin, shout out to you. You mentioned Mara, and that just made me think, and, just also reevaluating this, but your chat made me realize, actually, no, I'm bullish on this, and I shouldn't just do it for swinging a call. I should have at least a share just to ride it up. And, maybe I end up taking profits at 30 or something like that. Maybe I don't ride it all the way up to 80. I don't know. But I think that right now this looks like a pretty technically very nice level as long as we hold above that uptrend. So I just think that looks really good. But then the next one on the list is going to be gold, largely because I wanted to go over ticker symbol GLL, which is the ProShares Ultra Short Gold ETF. Closed today at a price of $11.52, being down about 0.78% on the day and in the after hours, down just a little bit more. But the reason why I wanted to go over this, to be honest, I no longer have a position. I sold at like 11:01, kind of lame. I missed this gap up onto Monday. But I do think that this could possibly be setting up for a pullback with those wicks to the upside having filled that gap. And yeah, but also this could just be setting up for some sideways consolidation, bullish consolidation, and a continued move to the upside. So, this might be, a nice time to take some profits or to trim. But at the same time, when I believe I did a video on GLL, I had talked about this getting up to 1250. So maybe what we're seeing is just a little bit of consolidation, bullish consolidation, before we break above this gap filled level and these highs over here getting up to 1250. So that is possible. But let's also just look over at the gold chart here. I already got this pulled up. But yeah, my thoughts with this are that gold, it's pulled back to this level. It's consolidating here. This is the data from May 14th. So the futures, that little red candle there. So this is kind of looking like, maybe this is some bearish consolidation that this could continue lower. So definitely the possibility. But for me, I am on the sidelines, whether that's with gold or with GLL. So just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on that. And also, while I do have, let's see, TradingView open, I'm also going to look over at natural gas here. And so yesterday I had talked about, natural gas potentially getting up to around 415, 416, somewhere around there, marked by that orange line, and that potentially being like a shortable level. But we haven't gotten there yet. It does look like we're consolidating here right around this downtrend. Maybe we don't get a breakout up to that level. Maybe we get a rejection back down to around 350. So that is possible. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts on that. Just, consolidating here, and that could be bullish consolidation. So good to, in my view, I am on the sidelines with natural gas, whether long or short. It is the widowmaker for a reason, and I don't want to, get slaughtered by it. So, yeah, let's look over at the next ticker, also an energy type of commodity, which is going to be ticker symbol URA, which is the Global X Uranium ETF, which closed today at a price of $27.84, up about 2% on the day and going up a massive 1 penny in the after hours, but doesn't look like there's any overnight trading data yet. But yeah, we're just hanging out at this level. Maybe it does continue to go higher. And yeah, I might just clean up this chart. Oh, actually, that is, since we've gone above the 50%, maybe I do want to remove that, just so we have a little bit less clutter on there. And, we can see that 618 is right around 27.67. Maybe we get a little bit of a rejection down to around 26 before continuing higher. Definitely something that I could see with that. But actually, related to uranium, I'm really excited to follow up on the chart of OKLO because I did execute some trades today. And so OKLO is a US-based, I believe they're based in California, nuclear company, an advanced nuclear technologies company, and did go up to $32.03 where it closed at, hitting a high of $32.63 on the day, going up with that close at 11.02%, pulling back a little bit in the after hours and overnight just below 32. But one thing you might notice is we're above that blue dash line, which was a gap that was formed over here. And since that gap was filled, I gotta fill it. So we got that solid blue line there. But I do think that could be acting as some resistance. And so, yeah, for myself, I took some profits on I believe I had 5 shares. I'm just going to pull up the info on my phone so I can just tell you guys what I did. So currently, right now, not very exciting. I have 2 shares at an average price of $27.52. And I did have some limit sell orders placed, I think corresponding with maybe around 36 with this light blue uptrend, and then another one, around 50 up at the highs here. But then it's like, well, maybe we don't get up that high. Maybe it consolidates for a while and maybe it pulls back some. So maybe I should protect myself from losses. And so I did place a stop order. I believe I mentioned this last night, stop order for 2 of those shares at a price of $28. which is, with cursor, it's like right around here. So that we do have some consolidation there, could be acting as some support, but we are now notably above that, right around $32. And I did get my limit sell order filled just below the gap fill, because I wasn't sure it would actually get to there. Sometimes the gaps get teased, they don't get filled, and then we pull back. And so I did trim some of my positions. So those 3 shares I trimmed at $30.27, which was a 10% profit for me. So that's why I picked that level. And yeah, hopefully we don't pull back to 28. I want to keep those 2 shares. And with that stop loss, I can then, not sell at this level here around 36. If it goes past it, I just be holding those shares, and then I can just keep my eyes on it. And actually, with that being said, maybe I want to put an alert here at 36. And then if it does go above 36, then I'll say, hey, maybe it's getting to some resistance corresponding, with that uptrend. Maybe that's actually a little bit generous. So maybe I'll actually adjust that to 35. And if it goes up there, then maybe I'd want to trim my position, sell 1 share, and then just leave that last share on there with the stop loss at 28. So I just think that's, a good way to manage risk, and I am not necessarily the best at it. So wanted to point that out and also just, share with you guys what I did. But I also wanted to note too, just looking at the chart here, maybe this looks like a little bit of a shoulder. Maybe this looks like a little bit of an inverse head, I should say. And so maybe what we could get is a move up to that trend line, and then a pullback, a retest of this green line that I have, putting in the right shoulder, and then we get a breakout retest, and then it goes higher. So that's potentially something we could be seeing. And since this doodle that I have here, was executed beautifully, maybe I'll just leave it up there for, all old time's sake. But yeah, so this is kind of why I want to have that stop loss. And if it does get filled and then it pulls back to 27, I could then, reevaluate. Well, maybe I want to re-enter if it looks like it is putting in an inverse shoulder, and then I could still go along for the ride, managing that risk with a stop loss. So I just wanted to share that. I think that's really cool. And related to that, kind of also inspired by this, FLNC, which is Fluence Energy. This is a commonly requested ticker. Benjamin's asked for it a number of times. And I had put this note over here: if no V-shaped recovery in closing week less than 5, then likely to continue down. And so that definitely did happen, came down to 346. And at that point, I'm not sure. I think I probably drew this doodle not last night, because we would have had that green candle, but maybe, on Friday last week. And, it does look like we are kind of getting that. And so, there are different ways to handle stuff like this. One would be if it goes up to 5, place a limit order, sell there, or maybe you do that with half of the shares or something, or, up to 6. It did go past 6. But then also, if it's like, well, maybe it's starting to form a bottom here with these wicks here, and also with this, I have to emphasize that, I am just a retail trader, just going over charts because I enjoy doing it. I enjoy, interacting with you guys, sharing thoughts. And, I would say most of the time, I'm probably wrong. And the reason for that is because it's not just about moves up or down. It's also about moves horizontally. And so, just like I had drawn this, we're kind of getting that. But, I was wrong as far as the time frame goes. I didn't expect it to do this. So, yeah, I'm pretty much always going to be wrong. So good to be considering that. Just, offering another perspective here. But the lows over here, like right around 350, just thinking about this, maybe that would be a good, or would have been a good level to have a stop loss, taking some profits or cutting some losses up here at a higher level, or up here at a higher level. But then, leaving some in there for just in case something like this happens. But with that being said, we do have this pretty big wick up here, closing below that green line, which, what's that based on? That's based on the high from March 7th at 588. So yeah, I mean, we've wicked above or had price action above 588. Excuse me, multiple times. We've had multiple days going above $6 a share, and both of those days we've gotten rejected. We did see a surge in volume on both of these big green candle days, but on this one, the volume has diminished, pulled back some, but we did close higher than that previous close. So maybe there's something there, but I do think that this does seem like it could be putting in a topping signal, and maybe, this doodle would just be adjusted to maybe consolidate above 5. And then that, I think, could be like, a cup and handle, or maybe kind of like an ugly, inverse head and shoulders type of pattern over here. So I do think that this, at this point, could have some moves to the upside, but I do think that we could be seeing a pullback to 5. I think that's a pretty important level, whether that holds or breaks. If it does hold and it consolidates in here like this, then, we want to see something like that. That would be, a really good encouraging level. But then, I drew that arrow right into that downtrend, which looks like it's part of a parallel channel there. And so, yeah, maybe that's significant. We did see some fake out breaks below it. But I just think that this is kind of a nice example that, it definitely blew past $5, which I was expecting to be notable resistance. I mean, we did spend, let's see, how much time did we spend below $5? 42 calendar days, or 30 or 29 trading days, basically. So a good amount of time below that level, and then we just kind of gapped above it. So that was a notable level. And then I guess we do have this island gap to the downside, because there's a gap over here and a gap over here. So that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, this could break down. I think it's risky, and I'm not really that familiar with Fluence Energy, the company. So maybe that's another aspect to be, a little bit cautious with. But then relating to, actually, no, I'm going to switch over to some AI stocks. And so I am going to go over to, oh man, I thought I had it on the list over here, but I guess I didn't put it on here. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. I'm just going to go over to my stonks list, and then SoundHound, I will add that to pre-market prep. I am sorry, Earl, this is overnight market prep. But yeah, let's look at SoundHound AI. This is another one that I believe I executed a trade, or I just, sat on the sidelines with my shares not doing much. So let's see. I actually don't think I did anything today with it. Yep, no, my sells were from yesterday at $10.25 one share, and another one share, small position, at $11. And so today just sat on the sidelines when my one share average price of $9.78. Oh, the thing that I did, I believe I had a stop loss at 10.25. I lowered that to 10, because even if I get a fill slightly below 10, if it does gap down below, that's fine. It's no big deal. It's, very small position. The loss would be, even if the whole share went to zero, it wouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, I just wanted to note that I did adjust that stop loss down a little bit, because I think that 10.25 could end up acting as support. And if it does, I don't want to be stopped out. And maybe I could then reevaluate and see if maybe that would be acting as support. And so with that being said, something that I can do, which I don't have drawn up here, I do have this extension up here, 1139. That's this 100% extension from the Fibonacci extension over here. That's at 1139, hit a high today of 1160. And we also closed, let's see, what was the close on the 12th? That was at 1101. But the high was at 1122, and we closed above that. So I think that looks really good, although there is, a wick to the upside following, a 22.61% move on the 12th. So maybe we could be seeing a pullback soon. And so maybe it'd be a good idea to do a little Fibonacci retracement to see if there are some levels that line up with that 1025. And so I'm just going to, it doesn't really matter that much, but I'm just going to make sure the levels are correct. So 871 is correct there, and then 1160 is the top there. And so the proportions, I currently just have the 618 and the 786. I'm not really too interested in those levels for this. I kind of want to look at the 50% level, which is around 1016, corresponding pretty nicely with that purple line that I have drawn there. Did get some consolidation below that level over here, so that could be acting as support, as well as the consolidation here right around or just below 10. And then if we do look back in time, I did mention this last night, but we do have the pivot high over here from Pi Day of 2024 on March 14th. We hit a high of 1025. And then looking back in time, that just looks like this massive, cup and handle breakout from this downtrend. And so I could see this, going up notably higher. And we do have this gap up here that has yet to be filled at 1525 and then other levels to the upside. So I feel really good about this, but I did just want to mention that stop loss level because I don't typically use stop losses. I am just trying to get better at them. And so I wanted to share that process with you guys, just what I'm thinking about that. And then another AI stock that I wanted to go over is BBAI, ticker symbol BBAI, which closed at a price of $3.56 today, going up 9.54% on the day, and then continuing up to $3.74, up about 5% more in the after hours. So just looking really nice there. I kind of doodled this, I imagine, yesterday, that there's potentially this like inverse head and shoulders pattern, looking kind of similar to what's going on with Mara. So, there's kind of, it's like a confluence of levels, a confluence of ideas. And with that being said, some of these tickers, I need to give some shout outs to people from X. And so Big Bear AI, I'll just kind of go over my analysis, but this, to be honest, I had started getting calls or a call earlier on, bought too high. I'm a little bit in the red on it, but I think I'm getting pretty close to being in the green. I think I did buy some today, so we'll go over that. And so, maybe I'll just go over Mr. Chart Norris's analysis of this, just, to give him a shout out. I would encourage you guys follow him because his analysis is great. And so let's just see. He's got this stuff on Bitcoin, but let's just scroll down. I could search for it. I'm just going to search for it. I don't want to get caught in the weeds. So let's see, what is that BBAI? So let's check that out. And so his latest one, looks like he posted this on May 9th, but then reposted it earlier today. So successfully formed the right shoulder. He's asking a question about this possibility of an inverse head and shoulders pattern. And hey, I'm sure that my doodle here was maybe influenced by his chart, but to be honest, I wasn't thinking about it too much. It just looks pretty obvious. And that's kind of one of the things that, with charts, if things start to look obvious, if they start to pop out, actually, maybe, if it looks too obvious, maybe not so much, but really it's just like a confluence of levels, a confluence of analysis. This makes a lot of sense to me. And so what he has over here is this range that it's been trading in. So this would be the supply where people are selling. I believe I have that referred to correctly. And then this would then be the demand where this is where you'd want to be buying. And so, that range, we've basically gotten down to there. Maybe we're breaking out of this range here. And so, I really like his analysis. I didn't like that one specifically, so I'm just going to like it there. And we can see that here. Do you have this downtrend? Basically the same thing. I did this, I believe, live last night. I remember doing the Ray, thinking that maybe I talked about this confluence of levels here, that maybe we pull back to retest that. So when stuff comes together, I think that's a good thing. And went up 9.5%. And so what I did today, let's see, I do have some shares of BBAI. This one, I have 7 shares at an average price of 381.6, getting close to there. Only 7 shares, no big deal. I don't have a limit sell order. So that's something I'm actually just going to note in my notepad, that I want to do a limit sell, and then maybe from there do a stop loss to protect myself if it does start to pull back. Because, we did get a wick up to 385. I could have trimmed a little bit today, just above my average, and that does look like it corresponds with the top over here. So a little bit of a rejection. The open price on April 28th, which I believe was also the high. Yeah, 379. So right there, a little bit of rejection. Not too surprising to see that. But yeah, I mean, I got a small position. I'm chilling. But, you know, it would have been nice to trim a little bit at 385 and then buy back, you know, where it closed at 356. But nobody's perfect. And so for this, I do have a limit buy for one more share at $2.91, which I suspect will not get filled. No big deal. But really, you know, more so, I would say probably more interesting is the call that I have, which is the $10 strike that expires in January. I have 5 of those contracts, and I actually added to it today. And so I'll actually pull up that from the contract list over here. So this is the BBAI $10 January 16th of 2026 call. 100 just means, you know, it's representing 100 shares. And yeah, so what we can see is we have this big wick up. Oh, and dang it, I didn't necessarily buy the top, but I bought a little bit, or I added, I should say, a little bit higher than where it's currently at. And so let's see, I had previously, so I initially got this when it was at 120. So let's see, that's right around here. And then later, so that was at the beginning of March, at the beginning of May, I got another one at 30, and another one at 30, and another one at 25. And then I just got another one today at 38 cents, getting my average for this contract down to 49 cents. Personally, I just like 20% swings just because, you know, I'm not expert enough to really time the bottoms exactly and really nail the tops. And so that limit sell is around 60 because I have to do this in 5-cent increments, I believe. And yeah, so that's what I have with this one. And we can actually just look over at the data here. So BBAI, this is that contract, the $10 call expiring in January. And so we can see that the low for today was 29 cents, but the high was 45. The average was 38. And, you know, my fill probably 2. So that's a little bit too big of a spike. I just did, oh no, I did 1 contract. So I'm not sure where it would be. But yeah, I mean, I did buy somewhere around here. And so one of those little candles there is going to be me. So that's exciting. But yeah, I need to kind of reassess the limit and stop loss with my shares for BBAI. So let's just come back to the list over here. Got that pulled up. So yeah, I don't know. I will have to kind of assess. Actually, well, maybe I could just do that here. Usually I do it in Excel. I do have a spreadsheet where I keep all this stuff organized. But we can just do it based on me pulling up the chart on my phone and pulling up the handy dandy calculator. So, you know, if I were to do like a limit sell at 20%, my average is at 381.6. It's not really too exciting, 7 shares there. But, you know, what's 20% profit? That's going to be that multiplied by 1.2, and that's going to be around 458. Let's see, do we have a level that kind of makes sense around there? So 458, that would actually be going past the gap fill. So maybe what would make more sense is rather than doing a 20% limit sell, you know, I'm going to, so I'll just note what I want to do, 20% for one, but I think I should also probably consider trimming one at 380.16, whatever this is. And so multiply that by 1.1, and that's going to be right around 420, which is the gap fill. So that also makes sense. So those are 2 that I should place. I'm just going to make sure that I do it according to my little spreadsheet calculations. So those are 2 levels I'd like to trim at my very small position of just 7 shares. You know, it's like advanced paper trading what I'm doing. But yeah, the next one on the list, bull. This is one I'm super excited about. I did establish a small position today. And so really this comes back to, I've got doodles here, but in this Fibonacci retracement, not necessary. And we did break below that. So that's also not necessary. But really, maybe this is going to be a level of resistance, around 24. So I should keep that noted there. And I should probably note that as a thick yellow line. Maybe it goes higher, but maybe that's some resistance that I should be keeping in mind. But yeah, I was looking at this and I use Webull. That's what I'm charting with right here. So Webull is ticker symbol BULL. They were just recently publicly listed, and they did close today at a price of $13.99, down about 0.7% on the day. This is actually another one that Mr. Chart Norris has gone over. So I'll kind of go over his chart. And this was also put on my radar because of Orlando, who I follow on X as well. But he was actually making fun of it, having it pulled back. He was saying they should change the ticker from bull to bear. And then I was like, oh, well, actually, it kind of looks interesting with this level around 1340, because prior to that big move up, what was the high over here? So on March 28th, the high was 1340. I drew that green line there. And so I started to think, well, maybe that's going to act as support. We did dip down to a low of 1309, and then we rallied. And this is when I started to pay attention more to Mr. Chart Norris's posts on bull. And so from that green line, it went up to a high about almost 40% to the upside. So a pretty nice swing there. And, if I'm settling for just 20% swings, that would have been, great. But I did not partake in it. It has pulled back some. And so I thought this could be a kind of a nice exercise for myself in using a stop loss. If it hit a low over here of 1309, I don't think it's going to go lower than 1309. But maybe it goes a little bit lower. I'm just going to place a stop loss at 13. But actually, maybe that's not such a good thing, because people do place stop losses at whole dollar numbers just because it's convenient and it is a way for them to manage, manage their risk. So I have 2 shares. So this is, twice as large as most new positions that I have. So I did buy one at 14, just, simple, might as well. And then I was thinking, well, if this does move pretty big, really just kind of encouraged by Mr. Chart Norris's posts, I thought, I'll just get another share. And so I did buy one more at $13.98. So now I have an average share price of $13.99. My stop loss is at 13. But maybe I want to lower that a little bit. So you'll probably hear a little beep. I am just going to, let's see, I'm just going to edit this on my phone. Yep. I'm going to lower that stop loss to $12.98 because it's effectively the same, but maybe 13 being a whole dollar number, we dip to that support, or we sweep it, go to a $12.99. I'm a little bit safer there at $12.98. But yeah, anyways, that's just kind of stupid. Just 2 shares, but from here, if it does go back to the highs around 80, that's a pretty nice swing. So from that green line, or from, right around 1438 is what it looks like that level's at, 450% move to the upside. So a lot of potential there, but even just getting back to that yellow line, that's almost a 70% swing. So yeah, pretty nice there. So just wanted to go over that. And I also should, just give a shout out to Mr. Chart Norris and, pull up what he did on bull. And so let's look at that. So now everyone is waiting for the king bull. And I actually had a funny comment on this. They're going to square my bull tardation. I didn't like his post. I don't know why. Yeah, just because, being a bull tard, then it's like squared because this is bull. So that's, I don't know. I thought that was clever. Yeah, so this was from 7 hours ago that he posted. And this one 13 hours ago. Bull, my favorite, will survive. And he's just being this guy, winking at it. He uses this guy a lot for GIFs and emojis and stuff. And let's see, bull, this is some of the analysis that he did on the 4-hour time frame. And he's saying, shall we? And this is from 16 hours ago, really just suggesting that there's this little wedge here that we might be getting a bounce. This is the 4-hour time frame. So maybe I want to look over at the chart on the 4-hour time frame to see if I can kind of, get a grasp of what he's talking about there. And so did kind of form. This is from a few days ago. So yeah, I can go a few days into the past. And that's a 4-hour. Yeah, maybe it's because I have overnight trading in there. But yeah, anyways, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But yeah, I mean, this is just some, as always, great analysis from him, kind of suggesting here with this mark there that it could potentially be going up to 16, then get rejected from there, pulling back before bouncing and then going higher. And so that was when it was around 1450. So yeah, let's see if it goes up to around 16. And that would then be, let's see, what's the close over here? That's around 1642. There is a gap here that has, again, not yet been filled. Just going to make sure that that is a gapped line. And so that's at like 1641. I do have an alert here apparently at $16, and that's below 16. Maybe what I want to do is switch that to above, because then that would be kind of, maybe I want to take some risk off the table with my lame 3-share position. But maybe I'll go a little more aggressive tomorrow. Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Another one that I did trade a little bit today is Wolf Speed. So ticker symbol Wolf. This closed at a price of $3.87, being up 15.87%. I saw that it got up as high as about 22% up on the day. We do see this wick to the upside hitting a high of $4.26, closing below 4 there. But yeah, this is, again, this is one that Gareth Soloway initially put on my radar, and Mr. Chart Norris has also covered this one, and he had a recent post that suggested that we could be seeing, basically this doodle of an arrow that I have drawn here. I'm going to delete this one that I have because that did not happen clearly. And yeah, so far it looks like we're approximately getting that. And I actually shared with Mr. Chart Norris today that I did take profits, or actually that I've been swinging calls. And so I thanked him because this is not the first time I swung a call. And so I'll go over that contract in just a second, but I do want to pull up his chart on Wolf. Lots of animals here, bull, wolf, having all sorts of fun with them. And so this is from 8 hours ago. WTF is wrong. Wolf daily candle chart here. And so he's thinking that, it could be pulling back a little bit. Actually, it did. You see the little thing there. And then it's going up. So, that line there is at, $4.62. And actually, this is something that I'm getting more familiar with TradingView. This is, kind of like a risk to reward kind of chart that you have the reward levels up here, the risk levels down here. So you basically want to have a stop loss if you break below this line here. That's around $2, I guess. I believe the lows over here were 206, if I remember that correctly. Yeah, 206. I got some good memory with numbers. Weird. And then the line over here is like 462. So yeah, I mean, that's potentially getting into some resistance there, but it could also be taken off, getting up to around, that looks like $8 or so. Yeah, but so I'll go over the contract that I did swing. This is one that I had mentioned. And so I do have it still over here because I think I wanted to share with you guys. So this is the $20 call that expires in January. I like the longer dated ones. Closed at 45 cents. I had bought one contract a couple days ago at 40 cents. And then I think I bought another one yesterday at 30 cents. So I had two contracts at an average price of 35. So I was risking 70. I like to take profits at 20% because I'm a newbie to contracts and stuff. And so I got to manage that risk. I got to be a little bit conservative. And so I did take profits today at 20%. So 35, that times 2 is 70. So move the decimal place over. That's a 7-cent swing. So from 35 cents, what my average was, up to 42 cents. And so I made that some, about I risked 70 and I got out, I believe, like 83, something like that. So yeah, nice little swing there. Don't fall in love with them. This was a nice little trade. I'll keep my eye on it though. If it pulls back, maybe I want to re-enter. But, got kind of have that stop loss set around $2. Kind of the same idea with Bull, placing the stop loss below whatever that level was. I'm just going to pull it up. I'll pull it up over here. So Bull, that level. So if we look over at Wolf, the idea that he has is the stop loss is, going to be around 2 new lows. Don't want to be holding it blading lower. But if we look over at Bull is what I was thinking of, the stop loss level that I was kind of thinking of is like, below 13, because that's the lows over here. And then also it's been an hour, so maybe I'll open it up to you guys, but I've kind of been actually taking some losses, recognizing some bad moves, some bad decisions that I've made with either or all of the above, Neo, AMC, GameStop, and Unity Software. So I do have these up on the list here, but I do want to, just open up the chat in case you guys do have requests. But basically what I've done with those, I'll pull up the data from over here just so we can see all of the contracts. So there are 3 Neo contracts that I hold. I'll probably lose money on all of them. Neo's just been a terrible performer. I thought that China would be releasing some stimulus and then it would rally. And so I had been accumulating the Neo $8 calls that expire next month, so 37 days from now. And I'm in the red with them. And one thing that I did, which is actually surprising it's not showing up here. Wait a second. What's going on with this? Yeah, maybe I'm just going to refresh this, and then I'll have to open up my options theses, pull up that chart. Oh yeah, so it's kind of odd. So I have some of these contracts, a good amount of them. I think basically my contracts, the amount of contracts that I have with this are worth around $1,000 right now. I had put about 2,000 into them, so I'm at about 50%. And what I think could happen with this, because I don't necessarily think Neo's going to go up to 8. It's just been a dud. It's been a pretty bad performer. I trimmed a little bit today. I have, let's see, I'll just let you know how many contracts I have looking at my phone. I've got 40 of them at an average price of 36, and it's, at 2 cents. So that's a pretty big dud. Oh, and actually this one, I did not get a fill. I had a limit sell at 3 cents just for one contract. That's, a pretty massive loss, but I just am a little bit concerned that this contract's going to go to 0. At least, I can trim out a little bit. And so maybe tomorrow I'll trim out a little bit, and maybe I want to have that limit sell at 2. So you'll hear a beep maybe. It's because I just adjusted that limit sell to 2. But this one over here, I didn't get a fill. So maybe I actually want to sell another one at let's see, 3. You won't hear a beep because it's a new order. I'm not changing an order. But yeah, I just worry that this could go to 0 because I was not initially looking at this, but I must have read the data incorrectly. There's these $10 calls that expire this Friday. And I have a number of these contracts as well. I have 70 of them, and I've placed a limit sell at 1 cent, and I have not been able to get fills. And my average price is 9 cents. So let's see, let's pull up the calculator. Let's see over here. So, I've got 70 times 9 cents times 100 shares per contract plus whatever fees, $630. So that's a good amount of money, but it's not like over 1,000. That's all going to 0. And so I don't want to do that for next month's contract with Neo. So this was a dud. I'm not too happy about it, but I learned a valuable lesson with it. I learned valuable lessons with it. And so those valuable lessons cost some. And then I do also have the $15 strike call that expires in January. I just got 3 of these, and my average price is 33 cents. It's currently trading around 8 cents, the low, the high, the average for today. So yeah, that's a dud. And then I also did something similar with AMC, GameStop, and Unity Software, where I just trimmed one of my contracts that expires next month. So AMC, I got the $8 strike call that expires in June. I sold one for, let's see, what price did I sell that at? Just, out of curiosity. I think probably 5 cents. And so, yep, and I got $5 back for that, just in case, just to manage the risk. My average for this contract is 19 contracts now. Previously I had 20, 19 at 20 cents. So with this one, let's just pull up that calculator again. 19 contracts, or really I'll just do it, with having had 20 at an average price of 20 cents times 100, or I could just do, times 20 times 20, $400. So that could be going to zero, but then if I trim out $5, hey, it's not going to go to zero. I took a little bit of risk off the table. I do think that AMC, GameStop, starting to look pretty interesting. So I'm probably not going to trim this again tomorrow. I could have trimmed some at 6, So, but it's just trying to manage that risk. GameStop, I did as well. I have, let's see, I've got a number of contracts here just because I was trying to follow, there's some bullish moves on, or bullish, net call premium on. But the one that I hold personally is the $80 call that expires next month. Just thinking that, last year it went up to around 80. Maybe that could happen again, especially if maybe we're starting to see some action going on that's similar to like what Roaring Kitty's doing. And so I have 35 of these contracts. My average share price is 70. But let's see, I initially had 36 of these contracts prior to selling one. And so 36 times 70, I'm risking $2,500 on this, which could go to zero. And right now, I had 36 contracts, and this is currently at, right around 39 is what I see on my phone. It did get up to around 40. So let's say 36 contracts times 40 cents times 100 is 40. So, I'm down basically $1,000 on this. And so it's just like the idea of, do I want to wait a month, kind of a gamble, to see if this goes up volatile, massively volatile up to 80, and then I could take some profits? Or maybe I just accept the fact that this is probably going to zero and I can at least walk away with about $1,000. So I did trim one contract today. Maybe I'll do another one tomorrow just in case, just trying to manage the risk. And, maybe I should also do the same thing with AMC. So I might do that as well, just to be managing the risk. And so with this having gotten up to 40, I'm just going to adjust my limit sell, which is actually at a 10% loss. Again, just trying to manage risk, because that's getting 2,000 back. And, I'd rather have 2,000 back than zero back. And so I'm just going to do another limit sell, but I'll do this one at 40 and see if that gets filled tomorrow, just to be trimming, managing that risk, whatnot. But this could be squeezing up massively, and then maybe I'd be in the green, and so I wouldn't be sweating it. And so I'm also just going to do the same type of thing, but with that AMC one, I'm just going to do it on my phone while I have it open. You'll probably hear a beep. Actually, no, because I'm just placing a new order. But I'm going to place a limit sell for 6 cents. I had placed one for 5. Today that was filled. And then also Unity Software, you can't see it, it's behind Ed. But for June 20th, so 37 days from now, I do have a $42 call. Could go over the chart why I picked that level. And I don't think the price is going up there. And I have 19, oh, actually, no, I'm looking at AMC. For this contract, I have 54 of them at, let's see, an average price of 10 cents. So that's 54 times 10. I'm risking $540 on this, which is kind of a shame because I'd made money on these contracts. I held one or two, and then I tried to get my average down. I should have just taken profit. Oh, well, that's why you don't fall in love with stuff, or at least don't fall in love with contracts. I made a mistake. Valuable lesson learned. And so I did trim one today. Let's see, at a price of 5 cents, so $5 back. I still hold 54. Actually, I had 55, so this amount is 550, but I got $5 back, so I was risking 545, I guess, in the end. But yeah, I mean, where did this go up? What was the high for today? Is this 4-cent one? That was not me. This one over here, one contract on the bid side, that was me. So that's pretty cool to see it. You see yourself in the data here. It's like looking in a mirror. That's pretty cool. But then, yeah, it did come down to 4 cents. I might actually look over at the chart and then I'll open up the chat. I'm sorry I'm rambling so much, but I do feel like that there is a lot of value in talking about this stuff and also giving examples of my successes and my failures. And that the reality of, because I got pretty heavy into contracts that expire in the next couple months, I'm probably going to accept over $2,000 in losses, which sucks, but valuable lesson there. Unity, maybe it's putting in a little bit of a top here, but maybe it's starting to break out. And I would think that maybe this is a sympathy play with GameStop. But yeah, this did move up to a high, 28.86. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a rejection. It does look a little extended here. It did have some higher volume, but yeah, could not hold it up there. So yeah, with Unity, what I might do is I might just place, let's see, I'm going to adjust my limit sell, which is at 13 cents. I'm going to adjust that to be only 53 contracts. Hear the beep there. And then I'm just going to do another limit sell, but I'll do it for 4 cents just to take some risk off the table in case it goes to 0. So that kind of sucks, but you know, that's the reality of it. My Neo contract that expires this coming Friday. Also my ChargePoint contract that expires this Friday. Both of those are going to 0. I've accepted it. And that's going to be about, I think, $600+ in loss. Whatever, got to move on. And so now, yeah, sorry for my massive ramble. I'm going to open up the chat, see what people got going on here. Hi, Andy. What do you think about Mara? So hopefully you saw me go over it. Benjamin says he bought 200 shares Mara. Yeah, I mean, so, I did go over it, so hopefully you did catch that. I'm thinking that this could be pulling back, maybe to like 1550, right around there, kind of ballpark. And if that holds, I think that's a retest of this breakout, a retest of this neckline, which is also historical support. Going back to the lows here, I went over this last night from 2022. And if it does pull back, find that as support, I think that this could be going up to $20. So yeah, and I think that Mara beyond that, just thinking about what's going on with Bitcoin, like seeing what's going on with Bitcoin, I am super stoked. I think that Mara is going to be going higher. So yeah, I think that this is fundamentally a good one this time of year, or this time in the Bitcoin cycle, because this is like the end of the 4-year cycle where it really rallies a lot before we enter a bear market. So with that, and mining is also emphasized a lot. And Mara is a US-based company, and I would encourage you to check out some interviews that the CEO, Fred Thiel, has done. Maybe it's pronounced Thiel, I'm not sure exactly. But he gives me a lot of confidence in the company. I feel like he's a really smart guy, super savvy, and I think that there's just a lot of opportunity for growth with Mara, not just, in the Bitcoin space and the mining space, but also in the like data center, AI infrastructure type of space. So yeah, I think that it's just a really, really good company. And I think that this is the time to be long Bitcoin companies, just like Coinbase, getting listed on the S&P 500. So yeah, but if we do see a pullback to around 1550, I think that's okay. And I will follow up on it if we do see that. And then let's see, Jeff's Travels is saying, what did I tell you about FNGR? Let's look. What did you say? I'm going to pull it up in Ticker Request Live so I don't get too cluttered over here. If you said it's continuing up, FNGR, if it was strong, dang, up 60%, nice. Congrats if you did not listen to me. Congrats if you sold. And if you did, if you trimmed, I apologize. I told you to buy on Sunday, and it was $3.50. Now it was $5. FNGR. Yeah, for sure. Nice work. but this will eventually cool off. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know anything about the company, and it's a Chinese company, and if I understand that correctly, yeah, in China. And so, you know, from what I've experienced with the NEO and, you know, all of that stuff, it just adds another variable. So yeah, congrats to you. I think though, let's see, and also, to be honest, I think that, you know, people will say that, you know, one of the things they like about me is I'm fairly conservative. And so, yeah, I mean, I think if you're in the green, it's good to take some profits, because maybe on this move up, they announce some dilution, and then you get dunked on. And then, you know, when it was at 350, maybe it comes down to 3, you know, which I have over here. So, yeah, I mean, it's up now. After hours, it's up 15. Dang. So when, oh yeah, I was looking at the after hours percentage. So up 24.43% during the day, 86 cents. And then continuing up to around 16%, around 508 in the after hours, as you had mentioned, above 5. Yeah, and so let's just think. So the market cap here is 250 million. When it was down here, you know, that's gone up 260%. So, yeah, the market cap down here was a lot smaller than it was. So that's like, so 100% is a 2x, 200% is a 3x. So that's like, yeah, let's see. Whatever, I'm not going to do the math on it, but the market cap was a lot smaller. Let's see. So let's just do this kind of like reverse math. I'm not the best at mental math. I like to draw stuff out on pen and paper. But yeah, if we just pull up the calculator and we see when price was down here around 150, let's see, 150. Let's see, okay, crap. So what do I want to do? So I want to get to 250. So that's, let's see. So from 150 or whatever this is up to get that. Let's see. This is just going to be an example of me not being good at mental math or needing to draw stuff out. But like from that low of like 1.21 times, you know, 2 times 3 times 3.5, I think is what I want. Yeah, is approximate, you know, so that's, you know, okay. So, and then, so let's say from around, well, actually, yeah, so that's, you know, based on the close. So let's see, 1.21 times 3.6. That gets us to around where we're at. And so if the market cap is 250, we can then divide, so 250 million divided by 3.6. That was a $69 million market cap. So pretty small down here. This is pretty speculative in my view. It's run up to 5. Congrats to you. It's up over 300%. So yeah, I mean, on this type of move, I say, yeah, good to take profits. Maybe it doesn't come down to 3 at this point, but maybe it pulls back to around 350. So yeah, nobody ever went broke taking profits. So congrats. And then, yep. So, you know, I was wrong about this pullback, but as I had said earlier in the stream, I'm pretty much always going to be wrong. You know, it's all about timing. And, you know, the reality is I may end up being right. Maybe this pulls back down to 3 and I was just wrong about this, but right about that. Yeah. I mean, this does look pretty overbought here. It's flat here with the RSI, not putting in higher highs, whereas definitely putting in higher highs. So that suggests some weakness. But I mean, with this big green candle, it's tough to argue that that's weak. But yeah, I mean, just look at the volume here versus the volume over here. Not as much traded to be pushing it up that high. So, yep. And so this is bearish divergence with higher highs in the stock price, lower highs in the, or flat highs. So that's weak bearish divergence. Got to be fair. Weak bearish divergence there because the high here was 85.24, over here 85.94, a little bit higher, but it's effectively flat. Volume lower than it was over here. Yeah, I mean, up that much, I think it's a good idea to take some profits. And so, yeah, at 5. Let's see, the low's over here. That's 4. Yeah. But yeah, congrats. Nice work. Nice. I'm glad you had conviction in it, because to me it was a little speculative, or very speculative. Yeah, so tough to predict. But yeah, with all that being said, I think I'm going to end the stream. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys. And I'll show this up here at the end. As always, just sharing my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more overnight market preps or pre-market preps, which I'll be doing next week.